Shri Sai Ram. Today let us start with the chapter Mechanical Properties of Solids. Today we shall cover the topics Hooke's law, stress strain curve, elastic modulus and some problems on them. Let us start with the concept Hooke's law. Hooke's law states that within the elastic limit, stress developed is directly proportional to the strain produced in the body. That means if we apply force on any body, that means we are applying external force. So for that there will be an internal restoring force developed in the body to regain its original dimension. So this restoring force is nothing but stress. That means stress is developed in the body. Due to the developed stress, strain will be produced in the body. Therefore, the stress developed is directly proportional to the strain produced in the body. And the word there is within elastic limit. What do you mean by elastic limit? Elastic limit means if we applying any force on the body, that body should regain its original dimension. Then we will tell it's an elastic body. So there will be a limit for that body. If we apply more stress on that body, which it cannot bear. So at that time the elastic behavior will be not shown by the body. That means within this elastic limits, how much limit is there to regain its original dimension, in that limitation the material the stress will be proportional to strain. So this is about Hooke's law. So thus we can write Hooke's law as stress is proportional to strain. So we can write it as if we want to remove proportionality, then we have to add some constant. Let it be K. So stress is equals to K into strain. Okay. So this constant is known as modulus of elasticity. So if we shift, we can write this as K is equal to stress divided by strain. So the unit of this constant, that is modulus of elasticity, is Newton per meter square, because strain does not have any unit but stress has a unit, Newton per meter square. The same unit for this modulus also. The dimensional formula is ml minus 1 t minus 2. This Hooke's law does not holds good for all the materials. The materials which shows elastic property within their elastic limit, such materials obeys Hooke's law. Now let us move on to stress strain curve. So the relation between stress and strain in the material can be studied experimentally. So if this stress strain curve will varies from material to material, no two material will have the same curve, that means stress strain curve. So what is the use of this stress strain curve? So if we study that stress strain curve, we can know how the material behaves if we apply some amount of force, and what is the maximum amount of force can we apply on that material. So such uses are there in studying this stress strain curve. So let us, to understand this stress strain curve, let us consider a wire of length some 100 meter. Okay. So for this material we can hang a pan at one end and it is rigidly fixed at the other end. So we can add mass in steps of some 500 gram. First we can add 500 gram. So for that some strain will be produced. Again we can add 500 gram. Again some strain is produced. Likewise in steps of 500 gram we can increase the mass, nothing but we are increasing the force on that wire. So likewise we can tabulate the readings and we can plot a graph for this readings. So now let us see one graph of such a material, metal. So if we plot like this graph for metal, the graph will be like this as shown in the figure. So now let us study the stress strain curve for a metal. So initially we are saying that the stress is also 0 and the strain is also 0. So for example, let us say some 500 grams I have added. For that, this is the strain produced. Again I will add some 500 grams. Again this is the strain produced. Again we will add 500 gram. This is the strain produced. So up to the point A, so we have a straight line graph if we observe this. Straight line graph means the quantities are proportional. That means stress is proportional to strain. So up to the point A, here Hooke's law is obeyed by the material. Now, after the point A, if we apply further stress on the material, what happens to the material? The strain produced is quite large compared to here. For example, let us take the initial length of the material be some 100 meter. Okay. So if we apply the stress in this part, what happens? For 500 gram, there will be a 1 millimeter increase. If I add another 500 grams, again there will be increase of 1 centimeter for that length. Okay. So likewise, here it is changing is 1 millimeter. But if I apply stress after the point A, what is the strain produced is 2 millimeter. That means compared to here, the stress is more here. For a small stress, it is producing more strain. Okay, here Hooke's law does not holds good. So from after the point A until the point B, the material will increase, that is nothing but strain will be produced comparatively large as earlier. Again, if I apply still more stress to the material, that is after some point B, what happens to the material? If I give a small stress also, there will be a large strain produced in that material. That means, let us consider until the point B, if I add 500 grams in steps, the change is taking place is only 2 millimeter or 1 millimeter in the body. But if I apply stress after the point B, there will be a large change or the large strain produced, that is some 5 centimeter, 6 centimeter at a time it will increase. The same 500 gram I am increasing after the point B also. That means I am giving the same stress to the body, but the strain produced is large. So what happens means, after the point B, the strain produced is large. So if I remove all my weight, what happens to the body? Initially it was 100 centimeter. But if I remove stress or at the point, after the point B, the body will not regain its original dimension. That means it will not, the length of that material will not be 100 centimeter. Apart from that, it will be some 105, 106 centimeter. That is, some length is added permanently to that material. So therefore it is known as permanent set. So after the point B, the material is yielding some length. That point, therefore that point is known as yield point or elastic limit. After this limit, the body will not regain its original dimension. Apart from it, it will add some extra length or extra change. So that is permanent. So therefore it is known as permanent set, and the behavior or the deformation of the material is known as permanent deformation. So if I apply again more stress after the point C until the point D, what happens to the material? The strain also increases, but how much stress I can give for this material, that is until the point D. So if I apply stress after the point D, what happens? The material will break at some point E. So suppose at that point D I have applied a stress, means applied a mass of some 10 kg. So I will add again some 500 grams, that is 10 kg 500 grams. So I will notice that the material is breaking. So at that time, if I remove that 500 grams also, the material will not stop to break. So it will continue to break. That means at that, after the point D, if I apply small stress is enough. After that, if I apply any stress and remove it, the material will not be like that. It will come to deform, that is nothing but it will break. So for that, the point E is known as fracture point or breaking point, we can call it as. So from this graph we have studied that from 0 to A point, the material obeys Hooke's law and regains its original dimension. After the point A until the point B, the material will even regain its original dimension, but it does not obey Hooke's law. After the point B, what happens? The material will not obey Hooke's law, and for a small strain there will be for a small stress there will be a large strain produced in the material, and the maximum strength of the material which up to which it can withstand the stress is the point D. After that, the material will not withstand the applied stress and it will tend to break. So this point D is known as ultimate strength and the point E is known as fracture point. So same explanations we can see after this. So the point B is known as yield point and the corresponding stress is known as yield strength. And again, permanent set, plastic deformation, and the point D is known as ultimate tensile strength of the material. That means after that, the material will not withstand the applied stress. And here is a word brittle, ductile, and some elastomer. So if we see in the graph, the points D and E, okay, if these points are so far apart or the distance between D and E curve is large, then the material is known as ductile material. That means for the ductile material, before breaking, the length will increase so much. So if the points D and E is very close to each other, then the material is known as brittle material. So for example, for this brittle material is glass. So we have seen that if we give small force also, the glass will break. For that glass, this ultimate strength point and fracture point will be very closer to each other. And some other point we have seen elastomer. What do you mean by elastomer? So in this point, after the point B, you can see if we apply a small stress, there will be a large strain produced in that body. So the body in which for a small stress, large strain is produced, such a body is known as elastomers. Example for elastomer is rubber. Next, let us move on to elastic moduli. What do you mean by elastic moduli? The ratio of, as we have seen in Hooke's law, the ratio of stress to strain is nothing but elastic moduli. So, stress is proportional to strain. So, if we want to remove proportionality, we can add some constant, that is stress is equals to K into strain. K is a constant, that is nothing but modulus of elasticity. So, it can be written as stress by strain. So, this elastic moduli is a characteristic value of each material. What do you mean by this characteristic value? That means every material will have a different elastic moduli value. No two materials will have the same elastic moduli. that is nothing but characteristic value. That means every material will have different elastic moduli values. The SI unit of this elastic moduli is Newton per meter square. So, as we have studied before, there are three types of stress producing three types of strain in the body. Likewise, same we have three types of modulus, namely Young's modulus, shear modulus and bulk modulus. Now let us study first type of modulus, that is Young's modulus. Young's modulus is the ratio of longitudinal stress to the longitudinal strain. So it is denoted by Y. Young's modulus can be written as longitudinal stress upon longitudinal strain. So we know that longitudinal stress is nothing but force upon area and longitudinal strain is nothing but change in length divided by original length. So if we realter and write it, we can write it as force into L divided by area into delta L. So here we can see in this last equation that if Young's modulus is greater, then that means force will be greater and the change will be small. That means if any material has greater Young's modulus, then the material requires more force to make a small change in that material. For this we can take an example of metal. So, metal has greater Young's modulus comparatively to other materials. Why? They can ask like this. At that time we can say, as metal is a rough one, we cannot bend or change its dimension easily. So, it requires more force, that we know generally also. And if we apply this Young's modulus, that is also same for it. The Young's modulus will be greater because it requires greater force to change a small length also. So, SI unit of Young's modulus is Newton per meter square. Now, let us study how to determine this Young's modulus experimentally. So, the arrangement is as shown in this figure. So, there is a rigid support. For that rigid support, we have fixed two wires. One wire is known as reference wire and the another one is known as experimental wire. The length of the two wires will be the same and radius also will be the same. This reference wire, nothing but standard wire, is attached with a meter scale. Okay. Again, there is a pan attached to both of the wires. Initially, we will attach some of the mass to both of the pans because to make the wires to be in a straight position. For that, initially we will add some mass to the pan. So, as we discussed before, we can add in steps of 50 gram or 100 grams mass to this experimental wire. So, for that there will be strain created in this experimental wire is showed by this vernier scale which is attached to the reference wire. So, likewise we can calculate how much force we have applied for this experimental wire, that is nothing but F is equals to mg. Why we have taken g means here we are expanding this length downwards and the force acting here is and the acceleration is acceleration due to gravity. So, from that we can calculate force, and however we will know the length before and change in length is showed by this scale. So, now we can calculate the Young's modulus of that material experimentally by, we know Young's modulus is equals to longitudinal stress by longitudinal strain. So, it is nothing but symbolically longitudinal is represented by sigma and longitudinal strain is represented by epsilon. So, that is nothing but force by area. So here we can see force by area, that is divided by change in length by length. So, here force can be written as mg as we know because that is the force is due to acceleration. So, here we can write F is equals to mg. and area of that wire is nothing but pi r square. So we have written directly same thing here, mg divided by pi r square, that is whole divided by delta L by L. So again, if we re-alter and write this equation, it can be written as mgl divided by pi r square into delta L. This is how we will determine the Young's modulus of the material experimentally. Now let us discuss some problem on the Young's modulus. The question is, a steel rod has a radius of 10 millimeter and a length of 1 meter. A force of 100 kilonewton stretches it along its length. Calculate stress, elongation and strain on the rod. Young's modulus of the structural steel is 2.0 into 10 raised to 11 Newton per meter square. So, whenever we will solve the numerical problems, first we have to understand what is given and what we have to calculate. So, for that we have to write the data, what is given and what we have to calculate. So, let us see what is the data given. A steel rod has a radius of length 10 millimeter. That means radius is given. We can see the radius is given. And a length of 1 meter. That means length of that steel rod is length of that steel rod is 1 meter. And a force of 100 kilonewton stretches it along its length, and the force given is 100 kilonewton. And they have given Young's modulus of the structural steel is 2 into 10 raised to 11 Newton per meter square. So what we have to calculate? We have to calculate stress. Elongation is nothing but change in the length, that is nothing but delta L, and the strain produced in the body. So now we have written that what is the given data and what we have to calculate. And we should again remember that everything should be in a standard form. That means mass always should be in a kg, length always should be in a meter, and again time is always should be in a second. Here the radius is in millimeter. Milli is nothing but 10 raised to minus 3 and meter as it is. We have to convert it. Likewise, force they have given kilonewton. Kilo is nothing but 10 raised to 3. That also we have converted into standard ones. So now let us see what is the formula for stress. Stress is nothing but force upon area. Stress is nothing but force upon area. Here area they have not given. They have given the radius. So for that area is nothing but pi r square. So F divided by pi r square. So we know the value of force and the pi is a constant 3.14 and the radius is 10 raised to minus 3 meter. So substituting all in that equation, we will get 3.18 into 10 raised to 8 Newton per meter square. Here we have to remember that after solving any problem, we should mention the SI unit. Next, we have to calculate the elongation, that is nothing but delta L. So, we know that before this we know that Young's modulus is equals to longitudinal stress by longitudinal strain. So, we have re-altered that formula and written a delta, what is delta L. So, we know that what is F they have given and what is L they have given, radius, everything they have given. So, we can substitute all the values here and we will get this answer, that is 1.59 millimeter. Again we have expressed 10 raised to minus 3, we have written it as a millimeter. Next, they have told to calculate the strain, that is nothing but delta L by L. We have calculated delta L and they have given what is the value of L. So, if we substitute that, we will get the answer as 0.16 percentage into 100, that is nothing but percentage we have written. So, this is how we have to solve the problem. in solving any problem, we have to remember 3 points. First, we should understand what is given and what we have to calculate, and we should write the data given. After that, we should know the formulas related to it, and again we should check that with using that formula can we calculate the required value, and at the end we should write the SI unit for all the quantities. Now let us move on to next type of stress, that is shearing stress. Next type of modulus, that is nothing but shearing modulus or modulus of rigidity. So modulus of rigidity is the ratio of tangential stress to the shearing strain. As we apply tangential stress to the body, it will create a shearing strain in that body. So this shearing modulus is indicated by the symbol G. So G is equals to tangential stress by shearing strain. So tangential stress is nothing but force upon area divided by shearing strain is nothing but delta x by L. This we have derived in the previous class. So this delta x by L can be written as theta. So F divided by A into theta. So if we calculate for any particular material the value of Young's modulus as well as shear modulus, so this shear modulus will be always less than the Young's modulus, and it is found that by the experimental results on so many materials, this shear modulus will be 1/3 of the Young's modulus value. The SI unit of shear modulus is Newton per meter square. Now, let us move on to one problem on the basis of shear modulus. So, they have given that a square lead slab of side 50 centimeter and thickness 10 centimeter is subjected to a shearing force of 9 into 10 raised to 4 Newton. The lower edge is riveted to the floor. How much will be the upper edge displaced? So they have given that. First we should analyze what is given. So square lead slab. There is a square lead slab and one of the side is given 50 centimeter. In square all the sides are equal. And they have given thickness 10 centimeter. Thickness is nothing but we can consider is also breadth also. And the force applied is 9 into 10 raised to 4 Newton. That means force is given. How much will the upper edge to be displaced? That is nothing but upper edge means in case of shearing stress, upper edge is nothing, the displacement is delta x. We have to calculate delta x. Now let us see what is given. So the given is side 50 centimeter. Previously we have discussed that it should be in a meter. Therefore centi is nothing but 10 raised to minus 2. Again they have given thickness, that is also in centimeter. We have to convert it into meter. And again they have given a force, that is 9 into 10 raised to 4 Newton. Again we have to calculate the delta x. Okay. So now we know that to calculate this, stress is nothing but force by area. Here area is not given. So area of a square we know that length into breadth, that they have given. So from that data we can calculate area. So that is 50 into 10 raised to minus 2 into 10 raised to minus 2. That is nothing but the area is 0.05 meter square. Again from that we can calculate the stress because they have given the force. So substituting that values we get a stress as 1.8 into 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square. After that we have to calculate delta x. So we know G is equals to stress, tangential stress by shearing strain. Okay, that we know. And again this shearing strain is nothing but delta x by L. So if we take two relations and club it, we can get delta x is equals to stress into L by G, because we know the stress is equals to delta x by L. In the place of stress, we have written delta x by L, and again we have re-altered the equation. It has become that delta x is equals to stress into L by G. Here we have calculated the stress value and they have given the length, and G is not a given, it is a constant value. We should know that what is the G value is 5.6 into 10 raised to 9. So on substituting all this value, we can get a displacement is nothing but 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 4 meter. So this is how we solve this problem. Next, let us move on to third type of modulus, that is bulk modulus. What do you mean by bulk modulus? It is the ratio of hydraulic stress to volumetric strain. So we know hydraulic stress is nothing but force by area and volume strain is nothing but delta V by V. So we also know that force per area, force acting per some area is nothing but pressure. We can write it as also a pressure. So for that we have written P. And we have added some negative sign here. What does this negative sign indicates? If we increase pressure on that liquid, then the volume decreases. So this is indicated by the negative sign. So the bulk modulus of solid is always greater than liquids and gases, and bulk modulus of liquid is always greater than gas, and the least bulk modulus value is for the gas, and highest bulk modulus is for is for solids. Now let us move on to compressibility. What do you mean by compressibility? Compressibility is nothing but it is the reciprocal of bulk modulus, that is known as compressibility. So it is denoted by a letter small k. So k is equals to, it is reciprocal means 1 over b. We have the formula for b, we have written it, and by re-altering it, we can write k is equals to minus delta v divided by p into v. Here compressibility of solids is less than the liquids and for liquids it is less than the gaseous state. So we generally know that gases can be compressed easily compared to solids. It is highly impossible to compress the solids. It is very easy to compress the gases. So for that, compressibility of gases is very large. So let us move on to some problem on the bulk modulus. So the question is, the average depth of the Indian Ocean is about 3000 meter. Calculate the fractional compression, that is nothing but delta V by V, of water at the bottom of the ocean. Given that the bulk modulus of water is 2.2 into 10 raised to 9 Newton per meter square. Here they have given that we should take the G value as 10 meter per second square. So what they have given, let us analyze that. The average depth of the Indian Ocean is about 3000 meter. That means from the depth to the bottom surface, what is the height they have given? That is 3000 meter. And they have asked, calculate the compression, that is nothing but delta V by V we have to calculate. And they have given bulk modulus 2.2 into 10 raised to 9 Newton per meter square, and they have given the hint that we should take the G value as 10 meter per second square. Let us see what is given. The height of that ocean is given 3000 meter, and again bulk modulus is given 2.2 into 10 raised to 9 Newton per meter square, and again G value is given. We have to calculate the fractional compression, that is nothing but delta V by V. Now let us see. The pressure exerted by that depth, or that we can consider as a column of water on the bottom layer. So we know that pressure is equals to H rho g or rho gh. This we can be derived in the next chapter. So they have given the height h, and rho is nothing but density of water. Generally we should know the value of density of water, that is 1000 kg per meter cube. So again they have given the value of G. Substituting all these values, we will get a pressure, that is 3 into 10 raised to 7 Newton per meter square. So fractional compression. So we know what is bulk modulus, that is stress by strain. Strain is nothing but delta V by V. By re-altering it, we have written a formula. So stress is nothing but pressure. We know that force acting per any area can be written as a pressure also. So we have calculated the pressure here. So substituting that pressure value, they have given the value of B, and substituting all these things, we will get a fractional compression as 1.36 into 10 raised to minus 2. As it is a ratio, we can express it in a percentage. So that is fractional compression is 1.36%. So now we have studied about stress strain curve, Hooke's law, elastic moduli, and 3 types of elastic moduli. As we have discussed earlier, 3 types of stress will create 3 types of strain produced in the body. Again likewise we have 3 types of modulus, and we have discussed some numerical problems. I will conclude with this session. Thank you. Sai Ram.